There's a moment in every woman's life when she looks in the mirror and doesn't recognize herself. Not because time has stolen her youth or hardship has carved lines into her face, but because she's become someone she never intended to be. Someone constructed by years of small compromises, tiny surrenders, and the slow erosion of who she truly was. I spent 31 years staring into a mirror that reflected a lie. I didn't see it at first. I told myself that the exhaustion in my eyes was normal, that the forced smile was just the price of marriage, that the woman looking back at me afraid, diminished, hollowed out was simply who I'd become. But what happens when you finally, truly see yourself? When you look in that mirror and realize that the person staring back isn't you at all, but rather a ghost of who you used to be? And what if that realization comes because you've discovered something so shocking, so devastating, that it shatters not just your marriage, but your entire understanding of the life you've been living? The woman in the mirror began to change on a Tuesday morning in March 1989. By Friday of that same week, she was someone else entirely. By the time that year ended, the woman who was staring back at me was a survivor, a fighter, someone I finally recognized, someone I was finally proud to be. My name is Diane Cecilia Washington, though my family and friends have always called me Dee. I'm 74 years old now. And this story happened in 1989, though the seeds of it were planted long before that, back in 1958, when I was just a girl who didn't know any better. Before I continue, my dears, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment where you're watching from. I receive messages from all over the world, and each one touches my heart. Now let me take you back to a time when I couldn't see the truth, even though it was standing right in front of me. Summerfield, Georgia. Population 5,800. A small town in the foothills with red clay roads and white steepled churches on every corner. My husband, William, we called him Bill, and I had moved there in 1958, right after we were married. I was just 21 years old, fresh from finishing my nursing degree, full of dreams about the life we'd build together. Bill was a pastor, 23 years old, charismatic, handsome in that way that made women in the congregation lean forward when he spoke. He had a deep voice that seemed to vibrate with certainty and faith. He preached about love and forgiveness and the importance of strong families. Everyone adored him. The church grew from 70 members to nearly 300 during our first decade. We had 3 children: Marcus, who was 15 in 1989, Tanya, who was 13, and Darius, who was 9. Marcus was tall, athletic, with his father's confidence. Tanya was studying hard, already talking about becoming a lawyer. Darius was the sweet one, the gentle one, the one who still believed everything his father told him. Our life looked beautiful from the outside, my dears. We lived in the parsonage, a large white house with black shutters that belonged to the church. I was a nurse at Summerfield General Hospital, respected, hard-working. Bill was the pastor of Mount Calvary Baptist Church, a man of God, a pillar of the community. We had a good marriage. Everyone said so. We were the couple other couples wanted to be. I'd wear my Sunday dresses starched cotton, pressed until they were perfectly crisp. I'd sit in the front pew with my children beside me, my hair done up in a neat style, my smile in place. To look at us, you would have seen exactly what the American dream looked like in 1989. A strong man leading his family, a devoted wife supporting her husband's calling, children being raised in faith and tradition, a marriage that looked unshakable. But you know, my dears, the most dangerous thing about a beautiful facade is how completely it can hide what's rotting underneath. Looking back now, I can see them with such clarity. The moments I pushed aside, the questions I didn't ask because I was afraid of the answers, the small voice inside me that kept trying to warn me, and that I kept silencing. The first thing was Bill's relationship with the church treasurer, a man named Elijah Summers. Elijah was 10 years younger than Bill, soft-spoken, with gentle hands and a kind smile. Bill and Elijah spent an unusual amount of time together. After church services, they'd go into Bill's study and close the door. Late at night, they'd go on ministerial visits that never seemed to involve visiting anyone. They'd be gone for hours. "Why are you spending so much time with Elijah?" I asked once, trying to keep my voice light. "He needs spiritual guidance," Bill said. "He's struggling with his faith. I'm helping him find his way." It seemed reasonable. Wasn't that what a pastor did? Then there were the finances. Money was tighter than it should have been on a nurse's salary and a pastor's modest income. Bills would arrive that I didn't recognize. Medical supplies from a clinic in Atlanta, 45 minutes away. Hotel receipts from places Bill said he'd never been. "Bill, I don't understand these charges," I'd say, holding out the bills. "Administrative errors," he'd say. "Don't worry about it. I'll take care of it." And I let him, because wives did that then. We trusted our husbands to handle the finances. We didn't ask too many questions. We smiled and nodded and pretended everything was fine. There were also the moments when Bill would seem to be someone else entirely. Moments when his mask would slip. I'd catch him looking at himself in the mirror with an expression I couldn't quite name, something between longing and despair. He'd lock himself in his study for hours. He'd come home smelling like cologne I didn't recognize. Feminine cologne, floral, and sweet. "Why do you smell like that?" I asked once. I was helping a woman from the congregation. He said quickly. She was upset, and I was comforting her. It must have transferred. I didn't pursue it. I didn't want to be the jealous wife. I didn't want to be the woman who accused her husband of infidelity without proof. I didn't want to rock the boat. Little did I know that the boat I was in was already sinking. I just couldn't see the water yet. March 14th, 1989. A Tuesday morning. I had the day off from the hospital, and I decided to surprise Bill by organizing his study. He was always so protective of that space, but I thought it would be a nice gesture filing his papers, dusting his books, making it pleasant for him to work in. I wasn't looking for anything. I wasn't suspicious. I was simply trying to be a good wife. But when I was moving boxes to vacuum, my hand caught on something. A drawer that was hidden behind a false panel in the desk, something I'd never noticed before. In all the years we'd been married, the drawer was locked, but the key was right there in the lock. I opened it. What I found, my dears, what I found in that drawer changed everything. It was a complete alternate identity. Documents. A birth certificate for a baby boy born in 1978 to a woman named Sarah Mitchell. A hospital bracelet from Summerfield General Hospital, the hospital where I worked. A photograph of Bill holding an infant. On the back, in his handwriting, "My beautiful boy, my secret love, June 1978. There were letters, love letters from Elijah. Letters that made it clear they'd been together for 7 years. Letters that called Bill by a different name, Brianna. Letters that spoke of Bill's journey of self-discovery, his true self, his authentic identity. There were receipts from a salon in Atlanta called Chrysalis Transformations. Receipts for wigs, for makeup, for clothing. There were photographs of Bill dressed as a woman, in dresses, in heels, with a wig and makeup, looking directly at the camera with an expression of such peace that I barely recognized him. And there was a ledger, detailed financial record showing money taken from the church's charitable fund. Over the course of 7 years, thousands of dollars, money that had been used to fund hotel rooms and salon visits and an apartment in Atlanta where, I would later learn, Bill spent 2 nights every week living as someone named Brianna. I couldn't breathe. The room spun. I sat down on the floor of his study, surrounded by the evidence of his secret life, and I felt something inside me break. Not gently, with a sound like something fundamental cracking into. Bill came home at noon. He found me sitting in his study, surrounded by papers and photographs, tears streaming down my face. He didn't deny it. He didn't make excuses. He just looked at me with something like relief in his eyes. "I'm sorry," he said. "I'm so sorry, Diane. But I can't keep pretending anymore Over the next hours, the truth came out in fragments. Bill had known since he was a teenager that he was transgender. He'd buried it, pushed it down, married me believing he could live a normal life. But 7 years ago, he'd met Elijah at a medical conference. Elijah had introduced him to a support group in Atlanta for trans people. And Bill had started living a double life. He wasn't having an affair with Elijah in the traditional sense. Elijah was his partner, his true partner, the person he'd built a second life with. The child, the son, wasn't mine. He'd fathered him during a brief relationship with a woman named Sarah before he and I were married. And he'd been paying child support without me knowing. I don't know who I am, Bill said, but I know I can't keep being the person everyone thinks I am. I can't keep being your husband. I can't keep being a pastor at a church that would never accept who I really am. I have to leave. I have to live as Brianna. I have to finally be myself. He left on Friday morning. He packed a suitcase while I watched, too numb to stop him. He left a note for the children. I'm going away to figure some things out. I love you. I'll be in touch. The scandal, when it broke, destroyed everything. The church discovered the missing money almost immediately. The police became involved. There was an investigation into embezzlement. But worse, infinitely worse, was when the church found out about Bill's secret life. Someone leaked photographs. Someone told stories. Within days, the news was everywhere. Pastor's shocking double life revealed. The headlines screamed. The community response was brutal and immediate. I was the wife who didn't know. I was the woman so naive, so blind, that her own husband had been living a completely different life right under her nose. People whispered about me. They questioned what I must have been missing. What kind of wife doesn't know her husband is transgender? What kind of nurse, trained to observe, could miss something so obvious? I lost my job at the hospital. We've decided to go in a different direction, the director said, not meeting my eyes. I had an exemplary record, but I was Bill's wife, and Bill had committed a crime and revealed a perversion. I was tainted by association. The church asked me to step down from every volunteer position. They asked me to leave the parsonage, the house where we'd raised our children. We had 30 days to move out. Marcus came home from school that day with a black eye. Kids were saying things about Dad. He said quietly, I hit one of them. Tanya stopped eating again. She'd had an eating disorder in middle school, and it came roaring back. She'd spend hours in the bathroom, and I'd hear her crying. Darius asked me over and over, where's Daddy? Why did Daddy leave? Is it because of me? Did I do something wrong? And I had no answer that would make sense to a 9-year-old. By April 1989, I was divorced, unemployed, and living in a small rental house on the east side of Summerfield with 3 traumatized children. I had $1,200 in my bank account. I had a nursing degree that nobody would hire me to use. I had a reputation that preceded me wherever I went. The woman in the mirror was barely recognizable anymore. Her eyes were hollow. Her face was gaunt. She looked like someone who'd been hit by a truck and was still trying to get up. I started cleaning houses on May 1st, 1989. I knocked on doors in the better neighborhoods and offered to clean for $5 an hour. Most people said no, but a few said yes. By the end of May, I had 4 houses I was cleaning once a week. The work was brutally hard on my body. At 49 years old, I was on my hands and knees scrubbing other people's floors. My hands became raw, cracked, bleeding. The skin would split between my knuckles, and I'd wrap them in bandages and keep working. My lower back screamed every morning when I woke up. My knees developed problems that have never fully gone away. I also started taking in laundry. I'd wash and iron other people's clothes in my tiny apartment. 3 cents per piece. Washing other people's intimate garments, their shirts, their socks, for pennies. By June, I was making maybe $70 a week from cleaning and laundry combined. I started baking too. Pound cakes, apple pies, sweet potato pies, collard green cornbread. I'd bake in the evenings after the children were asleep. My hands moving through the familiar motions of flour and sugar and butter. The only part of my life that still felt like mine. I'd take them to the local restaurant, and the owner, a woman named Lorraine, who'd been kind to me, would buy whatever I brought. $20 for a pie, $10 for a cake. I also started tutoring. Word got out that I was a trained nurse, and several families asked if I could tutor their children in science. I charged $8 an hour. By July, I had 5 students coming to my apartment after school. I was working 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. I was tired in a way that sleep couldn't fix. It was the kind of tired that comes from carrying too much for too long. But I was surviving. We were surviving. Marcus got a job at the hardware store. He was 15 and angry. So angry at his father for what he'd done to us. He gave me his paychecks without being asked. For the house, he said. Tanya slowly, gradually, began to recover from her relapse. She saw her mother, me, refusing to break, and something shifted. She started eating again. She started studying again. She seemed to understand that if I could survive this, she could too. Darius needed the most from me, and I had the least to give. But I'd sit on his bed at night and hold him, and I'd tell him the truth. Your father has a lot of things inside him that he needed to figure out. It's not your fault. None of this is your fault. And I'm still here. I'm always going to be here for you. By 1990, a year into this nightmare, I was making nearly $1,200 a month from all my combined work. That doesn't sound like much, my dears, but in 1990, that was enough to keep a roof over our heads and food on the table. More than that, it was evidence that I was strong, that I could do this, that I didn't need a man to survive. But something else was happening too. Lorraine, the restaurant owner, was asking me to supply more baked goods. She wanted to expand her menu. She offered me $100 to bake 50 items a week for her restaurant. $100 a week. $50 for everything else I was doing combined. I could make more money baking than I could cleaning houses for 8 hours a day. By late 1990, I was baking almost full time. I'd wake at 4 in the morning and bake until 8, then clean 2 houses, then tutor students, then go home and prep for the next day's baking. I was exhausted, but I was also beginning to hope. It happened at the Mount Calvary Baptist Church in December 1990, a Christmas pageant. Marcus was in high school now and had come home with an announcement. He'd been asked to help direct the pageant. He wanted to do it. He wanted to be involved in the church community, even after everything that had happened. I was nervous about going back to that church, but Marcus needed me there, so I went during the intermission. Mrs. Gloria Patterson, the pastor's wife at Mount Calvary, a new pastor had been hired. After Bill left, approached me. She was a tall woman, dignified, maybe in her 60s. "Diane," she said, "I wanted to say something to you. My husband has told me about the situation with Bill, and I want you to know that I think you're one of the strongest women I've ever met." I looked at her, shocked. "You survived something that would destroy most people," she continued, "and you're raising 3 beautiful children on your own. The way this community has treated you, it's shameful. It's unchristian. And I want you to know that you have my respect and my support." She said this quietly, but clearly, and I knew that other people were hearing her. Over the next few weeks, something shifted. Mrs. Patterson started coming to the restaurant where my pies were sold and buying them publicly. She'd tell people they were the best pies in town. She invited me to her home for tea. She introduced me to her friends as a remarkable businesswoman. And slowly, people's attitudes began to change. Not everyone, but enough. Enough that I could walk through town without feeling like people were crossing the street to avoid me. Enough that I could look people in the eye again. By 1992, 3 years after Bill left, I had opened my own restaurant, Dee's Southern Kitchen. It was small, just 40 seats, but it was mine. Every single brick, every light fixture, Every penny of it came from work I'd done with my own hands. Marcus graduated from high school in 1991 and went to Howard University on a partial scholarship. He worked his way through, as I did. He became an engineer. He's brilliant, my dears. He works for a major tech company now. Tanya graduated in 1993 and went to Spelman College. She became a civil rights attorney. She works for the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. She fights for justice every single day. Darius graduated in 1997 and went to Morehouse College. He became a high school history teacher. He teaches young people about resilience and strength and the importance of family. The rest are Aunt Gru. By 1995, I had 2 locations. By 2000, I had 3. I hired 50 employees, gave opportunities to other people who'd been written off by society's single mothers, formerly incarcerated people with addiction struggles. I believed in second chances because I'd been given one. The grandchildren started arriving in the late 1990s. Marcus's 2 sons, Tanya's daughter and son, Darius's daughter. I held each of them, and I marveled at where I'd come from the woman in the mirror who didn't recognize herself to this woman, a successful businesswoman, a grandmother, a pillar of her community. I won the Summerfield Businesswoman of the Year award in 2002. There was a photograph in the local paper of me cutting the ribbon at my 3rd restaurant location. And I was smiling, genuinely smiling. Not the forced smile I'd worn for so many years. The smile of someone who'd finally become herself. Bill died in 2005. He'd been living as Brianna in Portland, Oregon, and she'd been living openly as a trans woman. She'd remarried to Elijah. They'd had a good life together. As far as I know, I was glad for that. I really was. She had hurt me terribly, but she'd also shown me something essential. That sometimes people have to destroy their lives to save them. That sometimes the greatest act of love you can give your family is the courage to be honest, even when that honesty is devastating. Looking back now, at 74 years old, I understand that the woman in the mirror didn't change because Bill left. She changed because she had to. She changed because there were 3 children who needed her to be strong. She changed because she discovered that the only person she could truly depend on was herself. You know, my dears, I spent 31 years trying to be the woman Bill needed me to be. A pastor's wife. A woman who didn't ask questions. A woman who accepted what she was told and didn't look too closely at the inconsistencies. And when that life fell apart, I thought I was finished. I thought I would never recover. But I did recover. More than that, I thrived. I built something with my own hands. I raised children who became doctors and lawyers and teachers. I provided for my family when no one else would. I transformed my pain into something that nourished other people every single day. The woman in the mirror now is someone I recognize, someone I'm proud of, someone who's survived more than most people will ever have to survive, and who came out of it stronger, more compassionate, more whole. I want to tell you something, my dears. If you're looking in the mirror right now and you don't recognize the woman staring back at you, know that you can change that. If you're living a life that doesn't fit who you actually are, know that it's never too late to become yourself. And if you're terrified of what the truth might cost you, I'm telling you now, the truth will cost you things, but it will also free you. It will open doors you didn't know existed. It will lead you to a version of yourself that's stronger and truer than any version you've been before. The woman in the mirror is finally me, and that, my dears, is everything. Thank you for listening to me today. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next stories. Share with someone who might be needing a little hope. Where are you watching from? Leave it in the comments. I read every single one, and your messages bring me such joy. God bless you, my dears, and thank you for letting me share my story with you.